Blondine was completely stunned. Suddenly, her actions seemed monstrous, utterly horrifying. She saw her own ingratitude for what it was, a terrible betrayal of the friends who had been so devoted to her, who had spent 7 long years nurturing and educating her. A wave of panic washed over her. Would they ever take her back? Could they ever forgive her? The thought of them shutting their doors on her filled her with dread. What would become of her then? And what about those chilling words from the wicked parrot? You have caused the destruction of your friends. What could they possibly mean? Driven by a desperate hope, Blondine spun around, determined to find her way back to the castle of Bombeck. The path was no longer easy. Sharp briars and thorns clawed at her, tearing her arms and face, but she didn't stop. She pushed forward, bravely forcing her way through the dense, painful thickets. For 3 agonizing hours, she walked, her body aching, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Finally, through the tangled woods, she saw the place where the castle of Bombeck and Beaumenen should have been. A cold horror seized her. Where the magnificent castle once stood, there was now only a terrifying ruin, a pile of rubble and sorrow. The beautiful gardens, once filled with magnificent trees and rare, fragrant flowers, were gone. In their place, only choking briars, sharp thorns, stinging nettles, and ugly thistles grew. It was a scene of utter desolation. Terrified and heartbroken, Blondine tried to push her way through the ruins, desperate to find any sign of her dear friends. As she stumbled through the debris, a large, ugly toad emerged from a pile of stones. It hopped slowly towards her, its eyes seeming to watch her every move. She called out for Bombeck, for Beaumenen, her voice echoing unanswered among the skeletal remains of the castle. There was no reply, only the unsettling silence of the ruins. The toad just sat there, looking at her with its cold, unblinking eyes. She searched everywhere, her calls growing more frantic. She looked for the stable where Beaumenen would rest, the beautiful room where Bombeck spun her magical silks, but everything was destroyed, buried under heaps of stone and overgrown with weeds. All she found was a small, half-burnt fragment of a portrait. It was a picture of Bombeck, her kind eyes still seeming to smile from the canvas, even though the rest was blackened by fire. Blondine clutched the fragment to her chest, her body shaking with sobs. She sank to the ground, surrounded by the wreckage of her former home, overwhelmed by a grief so profound it felt like a physical weight. "Oh, my dear friends," she cried out, "it's all my fault. My wickedness, my selfishness has brought this ruin upon you." Her tears fell onto the dusty ground, mingling with the ashes of her happiness. She understood now. This was her punishment. She had destroyed the paradise she had been given, and now she was alone in a wasteland of her own making. The world felt empty and silent, except for the sound of her own heartbroken weeping. She stayed there for a long time, the cold stones her only comfort, her guilt the only companion in her desolation.